Thank you all again for joining. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask Jeff question or questions this morning. We will go ahead and start. We'll start with Annie, then we'll go to Carly Bell.
What's up, Jeff? How you doing?
Hey, Annie, how are you?
Good. Congratulations on the new position.
Thank you.
So we obviously know you have, a long history in player development. I'm curious how you are going to approach scouting talent, where that experience comes in your career, and specifically as it pertains to scouting talent overseas in this new role as general manager.
Yeah, I think that I'll rely on the things I was doing every day in my professional life the last 15 years. Identifying talent, developing it, cultivating it, making sure that speaking with teams and making sure that those players were fit. And overseas, I've been fortunate enough now to this being, my fourth year here. We've had a lot of players overseas. That the network is continuing to be built. The resources are strong. And just making sure that we understand that the talent pool overseas needs to make sense when the time is right, and make sure that those players, if they are fit for Chicago, we're taking a good look at them. So watching games, watching film, and just continuing to monitor players overseas that could be a fit for us.
And then just a quick follow-up. In this position, we saw in your press release the mention of working alongside others. So I'm curious, how collaborative will this role be to start, or as long as you're in the position, or will there come a time where you are the person with the final say as far as roster construction goes?
My hope is that it'll be collaborative and collective a majority of the time. What made it so attractive for me to accept the role is working with so many like-minded people who shared a similar vision. And so especially right now, working directly in a partnership with Teresa and Adam and everybody else is something that made a lot of sense, and I'm sure we'll continue to for some time.
Thanks, Jeff.
You got it.
Carly Bell.
Hey, Jeff, congratulations on getting the role within the Sky. We've seen you obviously within the Sky organization for a couple seasons now. What was the key thing for you to kind of switch into more of a administrative role as a GM instead of wanting to stick into player development? What was the most appealing thing for you in wanting to take this position?
I think that after my first year here, this was a organization I knew I wanted to be with long term. And just the next natural step for me would be, accepting, and tackling a role like this, where it put a lot of my skills, to use as far as evaluating, identifying, evaluating, and developing and cultivating, talent, and helping put a roster together that can win some games.
And what we saw last year was Kalia Copper really worked very closely with James Wade in helping and create that roster last season. Is that something that you want to do this year, is not only have collaboration with Teresa, with Weatherspoon and the coaching staff that will come in, but also rely on, Kalia Copper and also players as well, since they have, a little bit more, not saying more insight, but they know a lot more about some personnel than some coaches and things do. Is that something that you want to do with this roster?
Yeah, absolutely. Kalia is a special talent and an intelligent player. So we're always gonna, see where her mind is at and see the types of players she wants to play with and make sure they fit with our system moving forwards.
And then I'm sorry, one more follow-up for you. Obviously when you look at the roster construction this year and you look at free agency, it's a lot more guard heavy this year than in seasons past. Obviously all the conversation has been around, Skylar Diggins and whether or not that's a homecoming situation for her coming to Chicago. Is that something that you guys have discussed in wanting to bring her back to the Midwest? And are those conversations something that you want to do in bringing another superstar to kind of pair with Kalia Copper here with the Chicago Sky?
Yeah, Skylar Diggins is a great player. We're going to look at all free agents that can make sense for us. So moving forwards, we'll take a look at that stuff as a unit.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Steven. Oh, you're muted.
Okay. Hello, Jeff. Congratulations on your opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. My first question for you is just kind of looking at your vision paired with the vision of the front office as well as Teresa Weatherspoon. I was wondering, how do those things align, and where are you all in terms of that process with building out the roster to facilitate those desires?
We're in the infancy of a lot of those conversations, so can't speak too much on it. But I can tell you that the compatibility is in a very, very good place. I'm thrilled to be working with Teresa, and we've already got a lot of good conversations that we're going to move forwards with.
And how does your experience in skill development and internal development, especially with the Sky, help to differentiate you from, say, other GMs in your world?
Yeah, I'd like to think that it will be a competitive advantage for us, with as far as conversations that I can have, being able to discuss certain things with players and give them an edge, with their game at their position, and be able to collaborate, with Teresa, who's also coming from a player development background, as well as being, a Hall of Fame player and have a lot of coaching experience. But, this is a skill that, I'm excited to bring, to the GM role, to be able to collaborate also with the players about, some adjustments that they can make during the season.
And then my last quick question for you is, what do you think would be the hardest part in terms of facilitating the roster needed to facilitate to Teresa's desires, but also to get the ultimate goal, which is winning, which the Sky have been doing for the last handful of seasons now?
Well, the good news is we have a lot of synergy already. So we're aligned on a lot of things, but just continuing to identify areas of improvement and stay on the same page with that. But right now, I'm just very, very excited to be able to take a look at that stuff, which we'll be able to handle in the next couple of months.
Thank you.
Ben?
Hey, Jeff. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Just clarifying real quick, one of Annie's questions, just who will, because it wasn't clear in the release either, who will have final say on basketball-related decisions, roster decisions? Is it you or Teresa or someone else?
I think it will remain a collaborative decision as of now. And, if Adam Fox has to weigh in at some point, then we'll allow that too.
Gotcha. And then just how do you think the style of play in the W, if you think it has changed at all, has evolved or shifted since you started working with WNBA players?
I think that the style has evolved in, if anything, just a more exciting way. I mean, getting into those arenas and seeing how fast-paced, how exciting, how skilled these players are, how competitive they are, is continuing to evolve. And it's something we're excited to keep putting a product on the floor, that follows that lead.
Gotcha. And the last one for me, you're now one of 12 to hold this position of a general manager. I guess what's something big picture or league wide when you look around the W that you would want to see changed or improved going forward?
That's a good question. I think that right now, just getting used to the position and just continuing to understand the stuff that's going to make much more sense for our team,
Thanks, Ben. We'll go back to Annie.
Jeff, you've obviously been around the organization for years, and your relationship with James was close during, the last few years. I watched you guys work together. So I'm curious, was this a position you were pursuing, over the last few years, or when did it come into your mind that this was something you wanted to do? And how did James, if at all, help prepare you, I guess, for this new role?
Well, yeah, my relationship with James has always been very good. Our relationship grew. This will be my my fourth year here, but for a couple years, up until middle of last season, we got to spend a lot of time together. Being in the same room with him, such a great basketball mind, and great coach, he was a great resource for me. And I guess just overall, I spent the last 15, 20 years of, helping, teams, improve their players, and just cultivating and making adjustments with professional players. So, when the role, when I became approached with the role, it just became something in the next natural order, for me and my family, that it made a lot of sense to jump into. So very grateful and very excited.
Sorry, just two more quick ones. But
Sure.
So when you were working with James, what was it more so, in a player development type of situation, or were you kind of asking him questions about the GM position? Were you learning from him as far as that role goes as well?
No, never learning from him as far as general manager roles went, but always just bouncing ideas off each other. And he allowed me to come in and help the players, and we just had a very open line of communication all the time.
Okay, cool. And then as far as interviewing for this job, you were introduced midway through the season in a new role, in an official role with the team, beyond just being present in the consulting capacity. So when did you begin the process of interviewing for this job, and can you elaborate on what that process was like?
Yeah, the process was great. Maybe a couple months ago, we started some conversations. They grew organically, and continued to build relationships, with the ownership, and make sure the fit was good on both sides. And it brings us, to where we are today. And so the process was great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Steven, we'll go back to Steven.
Hey, Jeff, one more quick follow-up for you. So, of course, you'll have duties pertaining to the general manager title that you're working under now. But I was curious, especially with your background in player development, will you still have a hand in the skill development of the players on roster for you?
Yeah, good question. Teresa and I have been, having lots of discussions on this too. She comes from a player development background too over the last few years. So, collaboratively, it's going to be very exciting, for us to put our heads together and build out the player development and make sure it's very effective for the Sky.
Thank you.
Alrighty, if that's everyone, thank you all for joining. Thank you so much. We'll send you the link to this Zoom later on. We'll also send some photos as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone being on.